Genetic testing was able to identify where the mutation had come from.
Although I didn't know I'd got it, it wasn't nice thinking I'd possibly pass that on to my children.
I do consider that we are lucky in knowing that the gene mutation is there. I wouldn't want them to go through what I went through. When I found out that the gene mutation was inherited, it immediately gave me some concern, obviously for the children, simply because I wouldn't want them to go through the same thing that I had. However, because there was that possibility, it was important to get them checked. My eldest son found to be positive for the mutation, and also my youngest child, Esme, have also been found to have inherited the mutation from me. And my other son, Callum, was still waiting for his results at the moment. Yes, I do feel some regret, some guilt. Certainly initially I felt a great deal of guilt with that. But that was beyond my control, and certainly something that I couldn't change. From the point of view of the children, at least we know. I do consider that we are lucky in knowing that the gene mutation is there. I wouldn't want them to go through what I went through. And at least now they are in the system, so to speak. They will be checked on a regular basis, on an annual basis, be scanned and have blood tests done. I had a stage a couple of years ago where I wondered that I may not be in a position perhaps to do certain things again. So the opportunity to go out walking, spend time with the family, just do simple things, it is really, really important. You don't realise what you've got until you're at the risk of losing it or it's gone. So I'm very, very lucky, very fortunate, and I try and make the most of those opportunities to spend time with the kids and do the things that are important. Helps to put things in perspective.
Through the reading that I had done prior to my surgery, I had understood that paragangliomas were very often genetically linked. Now, there was no other obvious disease within the family, so the question was why did I have this tumour? The genetic testing identified that I had mutations on SDHB and SDHA, and the SDHB was the one that was deemed to be the disease-causing mutation. As a result of my genetic diagnosis, I was then able to tell family their risks. So my family felt it important to get tested, and as a result they could then have scans to check that they didn't have any tumours. So my dad was found to have the mutation but no tumours, as was my sister. And most successfully, as a result of my genetic testing, a family member was tested and found to have a tumour on his kidney that was a kilo, and he'd not had any symptoms at all. Prior to finding out about my tumour, me and my now husband had always planned a family, and I suppose one of the reasons that the genetic element was so important for me was because that then was a potential risk into any family that we might go ahead and have. So we did talk long and hard about what we would do. Anyway, fast forward to now, and we have a beautiful, healthy girl. We know she's clear from the mutation, and that's just such a relief.
Having the gene change was quite significant on my journey, in as much as that was the most upsetting part for me, because my research had told me, and the information I was getting from Birmingham, was that your children have a 50-50 chance of inheriting this gene. I have a son and I have a daughter, so it was a hard thing to take in. That was the hardest out of the entire journey, because although I didn't know I'd got it, it wasn't nice thinking I'd possibly pass that on to my children. My son is the one that inherited the gene change, but he is a lot like me and is very level-headed about it all, so he's fine with it. For the rest of my family, it meant my parents, who are both still alive, being tested, and from them it was discovered that my mum was the one that carried the gene. She has 3 sisters. 2 of those opted to be tested and 1 of them has the gene change. So again, her children now have a 50-50 chance, and so on and so forth with their children. It's a big thing for anybody to take on board, but the one good thing of the people who have been tested so far is none of them actually show any signs of the disease. And as it was explained to me by the genetics people, not everybody, lots of people can have that gene change, but there is only still a handful that will go on to develop the disease. But from a family history point of view, I think it is important for people to get tested, because if for no other reason than that means that they can be safeguarded with regular monitoring, because that is what will happen if they found to have the gene. They will be offered regular monitoring.
Having rare disease is a really lonely place. You can't necessarily connect with other people who have something similar. And equally for a medical professional, I think it can be really difficult being faced with a rare disease. My biggest piece of advice to anyone who's suffering with persistent symptoms or knows they have a disease is really to be an advocate for yourself, to understand what's going on with you. I think having an understanding of what's going on with you is critical to making sure you get the best for you.
I think it's important to share my story, to highlight certainly the condition itself, and also particularly from the point of view of the difficulties in diagnosis. Sometimes that sense of isolation that people feel once they are diagnosed, understanding that there are other people with the same problems, other people who've been through similar issues, and also to get the message out there that it is important perhaps to seek advice and seek information if people are worried, are concerned, if things don't fit into that little niche that you're being pigeonholed into. Get some help, seek some advice.
It doesn't matter that it's rare. It doesn't mean because it's rare that it doesn't exist and that patient's not going to have it. So the medical community, I think, need to listen to patients like me and take that on board, take some interest in it, go forward, look at what research is taking place. And for the patient, it's about making them feel at ease with their diagnosis and making them realise, life has not come to a standstill, your life is not over. And if I can help just one person or one GP or one healthcare professional go forward with this information and this knowledge, then I'll have considered it worthwhile taking part in projects like this. So it is immensely important to me. I'm here now, I'm in this category. I want to do what I can to help.